What I like to look at here for a minute is printer management and the printer management console. If we go into, and it's been installed on this machine, into the print management, the printer management console has a number of elements in it. It's got printers here. All the drivers are listed at the top here. The custom filters. This is what I was looking for something. The print servers is. This is the local machine. It's the only print server that's running in this. If it were in a domain and we have multiple print servers, we can manage all of our print servers from a single location. When we go into here, some of the things that they showed in the picture in the lecture, the drivers, these are the installed drivers. If I had another driver that I wanted to put in here, I could right-click and add a driver. You can manage the drivers. You can delete drivers from here. Forms, the things that you see, all of the different forms are defined in the forms area. Notice we even have some Japanese envelopes and so on in here. Ports, the ports that are available, and this one has 10.60.64.20. It's got that machine already installed on it, or that printer already installed on it. And the COM ports that are available here. When I go into the printers, I have my Microsoft XPS document writer, which is always going to be available. If you don't have a printer that prints on ink, you can always print to that document. But the thing I wanted to go through quickly again is the properties of the print device. We have the general, which got the name, the location. A comment in here I put for lab purposes only. Printing preferences. Printing preferences are the things that are specific to that particular device. Paper quality, effects, finishing, each, and the advanced, what we have on that particular printer. That's going to be different for each of the devices that you put on. Sharing, we can share here, share this printer. I called it library printer. Render print jobs on the client computers. Again, we want to do that. And list in directory. This machine is a domain controller. It can be listed in Active Directory. When you install this on yours, after you have joined your computer to the domain as a member server, as you do the Windows Deployment Server Lab, which requires you to effectively, to complete its configuration, you've got to become a domain member. Then you'll be a domain member and you'll be able to publish it and list it in the directory and be able, and it will, that means that members of users in the domain can connect to it, can install it on their device. The ports here, and what we hear, enable bidirectional printing support. This has only got one. Let me be sure I got the right one, 1060/6420. Notice that as I click on these things, that I can only have one at a time selected. If I had multiple devices attached at the end, I would enable printer pooling. That allows me to pick multiple ports. Pick multiple ports as we've got the same device at the other end of each of those ports that use the same driver. And that's the one that whichever one's available, it'll get sent to it automatically. Now, so that I don't do this, I'm going to cancel and then go back and start over again. Is that the chintzy way out of that? Ports. Advanced is the thing that we looked at in Windows 7. This is where you can control who can print when. Always available is the default, available from specific time of day. The default priority is 1, which is the lowest priority of these things. The driver, when I talked about you may not want your users to be able to manage drivers, put a new driver in here, or, golly, I can just do the drop-down box and pick a driver if my users can get to that area. That's one that say, oh yeah, this driver is going to be, this printer is faster, I'm going to use this driver. Well, they may not match up, so you may have them making a mess. You won't do that. Start printing after the last page is spooled. The default is start printing immediately before all the pages are spooled. And again, my personal preference, start printing after the last page is spool so that the whole job gets in the spool before it actually starts sending it to the printer itself. That way, if something happens, then you're not locking out everybody else's jobs, because once a job starts, it's going to have the printer until it's done. Whole mismatch jobs is not a default. Might be something that you want to do. Whole mismatch jobs does a comparison to see that the driver that got sensitive driver is actually used for that device. Might save you those. If you want to keep printed documents, you check this one here. Nothing magic about any of these. It's just a matter of knowing where each of those things are. And in my scenario, the regular users, the paper wasters, and the bosses, what you would do is go in here and configure these things based on whatever the requirements are for those users. One of the things that has happened to us one time is somebody decided to print some documents, and I don't know if it's on purpose or accidentally, that went on and on and on, printed overnight actually. Well, it was really slow printers at the time. We're talking inkjet type speed, so it didn't print graphics very quickly. They were all graphics images. But you can configure those for whatever you need here. Color management is going to be, again, specific to the device itself. The device settings specific to the device itself. The security, by default, everyone gets the print. If I wanted to change that, I would go in here and remove the everyone group and then add somebody else. If you don't know who the users are, and this says it's going to CIS 2510.local, that's the domain name of this domain that I put in here. Just go into Advanced, Find Now, it'll list everybody for you. That's a quick way to do that. If you know how the username starts, you can start the username. You can start the username here and check names, and it should finish it for you. Now, I found out that that works most of the time, but occasionally it gets a little confusing, and it doesn't work. If you have more than one user that starts with the string that you've typed in, then it'll give you users to choose from. So you can manage your permissions there, the security, and again, I guess that I could go back here and add the everyone group back, huh? Let's see if it'll find those guys. See, and I did EVER, and it clicked check names, and it found everyone. So we'll put that group back in with print permissions. If we wanted to give them other permissions, we could do that right here. Manage printers, manage documents. You're probably not going to want to do that with everyone group, but you may have a group of users that you want to manage the queue. Give them manage documents. That way they can delete other users' jobs. So that when that one job gets hung at the top of the queue and nobody else can print, they can go in and delete that one. Here, that kind of becomes an issue because during the day, Chris can do that just fine. What about at night? Who does it at night? I mean, I can probably do it Monday, Wednesdays because I'm here. Who does it Tuesday, Thursday? You need to give somebody the authority to do those things. And that's what delegations are about, too, when we start talking about delegation. Delegate somebody the authority to do the job that you don't necessarily want to do every 5 minutes. Reset passwords. I mean, how often do you think passwords get reset around here? Do you want to allow somebody else to do that? He does them all, but could he delegate that to, like, the nursing supervisor and the CET supervisor and the network, the security supervisor? Each of those department heads could be delegated that authority. So when their students had a problem, they come, instead of coming to the network administrator, they go to their department head and said, I need my password reset. So you can delegate those kinds of authorities.
That would make more sense than going to Chris.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of things do, but we're just not that big. But if you have a larger environment, actually, that did happen for a while when we got some of the more non-technical users around who couldn't remember their password 3 minutes after they reset it. But as it gets larger, you need to think about those kinds of delegations. When we do things in labs, we don't do them on a large scale. this software, this Active Directory thing, was designed to work on a large scale. We're talking thousands, tens of thousands of users can be managed in here. In that case, the network administrator is not going to reset all the passwords because you probably have 100 a minute to do those things. When you have to delegate those things, you have to control who can use which printers when you do these things. Have them only get the printers that are in their area, those kinds of things. The other thing, and enable printer pooling, the other thing that really is new in this thing, again, this is a domain controller, but I have this printer here. I can right-click on it and deploy with a group policy. I can actually deploy this printer. I'd have to have a group policy name. There's not one there. I can browse to. I can browse to a policy. Which policy? Default domain policy. I could go in here. The users that this GPO applies to per user. The computers, I can either push it out to computers or push it out to users. So we can deploy it very quickly in Active Directory. This is something that is new in this. You can't do this action and you don't have this console in 2003 server. So there are some improvements in 2008. Generally, again, every time they come out with a new one, 2003 was better than 2000. 2000 was quite a bit better, I thought, than NT4. 2003 better than that. 2008 and Windows 7 are probably and you would hope so, are the best products that they put out, although you couldn't have said that about Vista, I don't think. But you can with Windows 7. Windows 7 really is a good product. Server 2008 is a good product. The R2 version is out. Only runs on 64-bit hardware. It has some other capabilities and other improvements with it. There are documents available that tell you what the differences are between those. I've got one that I'll post. What's new in Server 2008 R2, each of those things. But that's kind of, hopefully, a synopsis on how printers work, how you manage printers. This is something, this really is a big deal, because the thing that can get you in trouble really quick is when the bosses can't print, or when the masses can print on the boss's printer. All of those things can get you in trouble. If they print something and it doesn't come out straight away, they're going to know why. What's going on? Why can't I get my job? If they see, and around here, if they see one of you guys standing up there at that printer saying, why are they up here? Why can they print up here? Do mistakes get made? Yes. Do you need to test things out yourself? Yes. You'll notice that sometimes I'll ask you, particularly in file permissions when we're doing some demonstration, see if you can do this, see if you can do that. Just check to be sure that things are still working the way that they were. Do things get changed? Yep. We had a policy got changed a few months ago back to the default because our policy for passwords is 180 days. Got changed to where they're 43 days. Had to hunt that thing down. There was one in there that said ever 180 days, but it wasn't the effective policy because in 2003 you're going to have one security policy. There was one there that says it was a security policy, but it wasn't enforced. Somebody had reset the default policy. Who? I don't know. Because auditing wasn't configured correctly. When you start these things, I want to start early on you hearing these terms because there are things, and as I think about them, there are things that you can do so that you can track things back more effectively. Logging, auditing, those kinds of things allow you to figure out what happened more effectively than, oh yeah, I found it now. Well, what happened? I don't really know. I know what happened. I just don't know how it happened or who did it. I mean, somebody obviously with some authority had to do that. Did it happen by accident? Probably. Somebody configuring the wrong server? Probably. But those kinds of things can happen to you. But again, that's the quick and dirty on this new console. When you're doing the labs, take a look at it. Do this console. Learn how to use it because it is a very handy tool. Are there questions about it?